On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs related podcast, the Chicago Cubs are going back to the playoffs. We are going to have October baseball. We'll be celebrating a little bit and looking ahead to how this team wins a championship. We'll talk about all that and more on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs related podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places and bet 365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey. I'm joined as always by Brendan. We're coming to you on Thursday, September 18th. And Brendan, I will tell you this. This is technically a post-game show. The Cubs dropped the opener in Cincinnati to the Reds 1-0 behind a brilliant effort from Hunter Green, though facing a bunch of hungover, mid and early 20-year-olds. So I'm not sure how much that counts. I don't care about that, Brendan. What I care about is that you and I are on airwaves, YouTube, podcast, wherever, and we are talking about the Chicago Cubs playing playoff baseball for the first time, if you count 2020, in 5 years.
We were thinking about this. The last time they popped bottles was 8 years ago. In 2015, when they won the wild card game, when they made the wild card game, it was 7 years between 2008 and 2015. It's been longer now compared to 2017. You got to savor these moments. We can talk about the offense, the slumps. You got to savor these moments.
And listen, we are going to do that. We're going to celebrate a little bit. We're going to look ahead to October. The Cubs have playoff baseball to play. So we're going to look ahead to securing home field advantage, the rotation, who's trusted out of the bullpen, et cetera, et cetera. I will tell you this. I'm going to address our YouTube chat really
over the
quickly.
place.
If you are upset that they lost a game after clinching, they're all drunk and hungover. I don't know what to tell you. I don't care that they lost tonight's game to the Cincinnati Reds. If you are suggesting that they didn't accomplish anything, they shouldn't have been celebrating, we just don't agree with you. I saw some of that on social media as well. Of course the job isn't finished, right? The goal is to win championships. You guys know this if you've listened to us, but you have to enjoy the good things. We all woke up at 5 in the morning? It was like 3 in the morning for you, Brendan, back in the middle of March to watch this team, right? Then you watch, we're not done yet, but 162 games of baseball. You're checking the injured list. You're watching Brewers games to see the division, all of this stuff. I promise you it is okay to celebrate a little bit. One good thing that they did, part of the deal every year is getting into the playoffs, having a seat at the table, a ticket to the dance, whatever cliche you want to use. They haven't had one in half a decade. And that's if you count the fake Mickey Mouse 2020 season. And on this show, we don't, right? 2018, they got knocked out, etc. Like, we are going to enjoy this. It does not mean that my goal, you guys know this, my goal coming into the year was running away with the National League Central, being the top seed in the National League. Of course, there's things that they didn't do that I wanted to see, but this is a playoff team. When I was a kid, Brendan, I used to save the newspapers on days like this.
I still do.
And all this other stuff. So listen, I'm not going to, as always, like Luke Stuckmeyer says, I won't tell you how to fan. If you don't think they should have celebrated, if you didn't get any joy watching a shirtless 8-pack PCA on the field at PNC, spraying champagne everywhere. Seiya Suzuki screaming in the locker room while he was spraying friends with champagne. That is your prerogative. But you are not going to bum me out. The Cubs popped champagne yesterday, and that's what I'm here for, Brendan.
The front office executive who won the World Series, led the Cubs to the promised land, said every season is sacred. These moments getting into the playoffs are sacred. Once you get into the playoffs too, anything happens. Now, don't gloss over that fact. That's a reality. When we talk about the slumping Cubs offense or talk about the bullpen, whatever trend you want to talk about, I want to be very clear. None of it matters. You can't project anything in a 3-game series, a 5-game series, or a 7-game series. The season is over. It is done with. The only thing that matters is getting healthy, waking up, feeling good, and hope and do your best to put yourself in a position where the ball falls your way, where you get a few blue hits, where you can get those strikeouts, keep your team in the game. And that's playoff baseball. You bought the ticket to the circus. What we've seen the past 2 months, it doesn't matter. It truly does not matter. That's what makes baseball both infuriating, but also exciting, because the Cubs really do have a legitimate shot at winning the World Series. Do not gloss over that. They say, oh, well, they've been slumping, they're going to get swept. Yeah, that's possible. In fact, losing is the most likely outcome. That's how it is for every single team. The best team in the playoffs have an 85% chance of getting bounced. 85% chance. This is an absurd tournament, and the Cubs are in it, and they have a very good shot, Corey, relatively speaking, of getting to that World Series.
Yeah, and look, like right now they're sitting at 88 wins. So we'll see how these last couple weeks go, but very possible that they get toward a win total that I think early in the season we would have been very happy with. Like I said, coming into the year, you guys know I wanted a team on paper that was running away with the division. They didn't do that. The Brewers ended up, I don't know if I would say running away, but at the moment they're holding it pretty handily, right? So that part is certainly a disappointment. I didn't want to play in this wild card round. It's a gauntlet, right? Like if you end up playing the Padres in 3 games, anything can happen. It sucks to have 162 games come down to that. And that's the consequence of not being a top 2 team in the National League and winning that division. But yeah, I don't agree with any non-celebrating or suggestion that it's wrong to enjoy this. They hit a lot of goals that we had when we came into the season. How many more they can do, we'll see. And there's certainly some questions, right? Like Matthew Boyd, obviously not looking his best, not particularly at the most favorable time. Kyle Tucker headed to his physical therapist because there's not making any progress on the calf. Like that's not what you want to hear. So certainly there is stuff over these next couple weeks that, like, heading into that wild card series, you have to hope get tightened up a little bit, or you're going to have to make decisions, etc. But a few things, Brendan. Firstly, like, I have playoff tickets in my ballpark app, right? They're real. I can see them. I own them. Like, and there's a very high likelihood there will be playoff baseball at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. If that's not what are we doing here, right? If that's not what it's for. And we can, in the offseason, go back and say, well, they should have done this and this and this, and they would have won the division, or they could have avoided the wild card. Don't do it while they're in the playoffs, you guys. Like, watch the team in the playoffs. Enjoy it. They're trying to win. But yesterday, too, full, Brendan, of moments that, really almost like bring a tear to your eye, man. Like Ian Happ giving that speech in the locker room. He's one of the longest tenured Cubs like ever. Yeah. He has been here so long. He's been around good teams. Obviously, he was there in 2020, but he'll get a shot in a real, honest to goodness playoff situation as one of the main faces of the team. Nico Horner getting his first shot at this. I know you sent me the text yesterday with Nico Horner with the postseason patch on his hat. It's just a beautiful sight, man. Some of these guys whose careers we followed to every minute detail, them getting drafted, them going to the minor leagues, coming up and all this other stuff, to see them have those moments, the cigar in their mouth, the champagne, the beer, everything. That's what this is all about, man. There were so many other things in that clubhouse yesterday, but I'll turn it to you. But like seeing some of that stuff, for as taxing as this season has been at some points, right? Like those are the moments where you go like, this is why we're sports fans. This is why we're baseball fans. It's for these little moments and the hope that you might get a few more.
I remember when you and I were recording in 2017, Ian Happ was a rookie. We're on these airwaves, not these specific airwaves, although kind of. And you're talking, I like this Ian Happ guy. His first interview in Mesa was saying, I'm going to do anything I need to do to help this team out. At the time, he was a second baseman, played third base, played center field, ended up in left field. But to see the story of Ian Happ, 4,500 plate appearances later, think about that. 4,500 plate appearances later, and he's celebrating with champagne for the first time since he made those words is absurd. So you do have to enjoy it. Seeing Nico Horner celebrate for the first time with champagne, seeing him and Dansby Swanson celebrate, the Gold Glove crew, all three of them together. It's fun. When I was growing up watching WGN and seeing, 2003, when they won 88 games, the same number the Cubs have just won, that was such a formidable experience for my phantom.
Oh, yeah.
So you can gloss over this, right? But there are some kids who have not seen this. There's some like 14, 13-year-old kid who have never seen this. So for them to see PCA lose his mind on TV is a formidable experience. So yeah, now the chats, they're like 0.1% of fans. Most of fans, they acknowledge this is pretty cool. So I'm not going to amplify the 0.1% of, quite frankly, like, I don't want to say, I'm going to be nice here, but I don't want to amplify that negativity because there's no place for it. Why watch the sport? Why watch the sport if you're not going to celebrate these fun moments?
I'm with you, brother. There was some other stuff in that clubhouse too. I mean, plenty to go around, but the other thing that always catches me watching these celebrations, even when it's other teams, is like the unheralded guys getting those moments. I saw the picture, I think that Tommy Hotovy posted of him and like the starting staff and seeing Cade Horton in there, cigar hanging in his mouth, like the big guy, right? Like, and someone like tonight, Colin Ray, fantastic here on Thursday night. Unfortunately, the Cubs are getting no hit for 7 innings. But he went out there and delivered another really, really solid start for this team. And seeing him in those photos, guys like Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, who's had such an up and down year and like, a tough mental stretch recently, physically, mentally, seeing those guys get those moments. It is what it's about. And Ian Happ said it in his speech, like, for the young guys, like, take it in. Like, this is what you're going for. And like some of those guys in that clubhouse are a lesson, like not to take it for granted. You don't get to do it that often, right? Some guys end up on teams that never, end up playing in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So all those moments are just so cool. And seeing those guys get their moment, I really appreciate. And I'm glad we get to watch that. I thought, for some of the complaints that I might have otherwise, I thought Marquee did a really good job covering that. I think their first opportunity to cover that, like in the clubhouse and all that, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable to see. Like I said, I used to collect the newspapers. I would have my mom on the phone the minute that the game ended. I needed the hat. I needed the shirt. I needed everything they were wearing right in the clubhouse. I needed it at the time. It's like a Ramos Ramirez. If he was wearing a shirt, I needed it at the house the next day. I'm not, now the standard has moved a bit. Like I do I probably wouldn't buy any merch unless they won the World Series again. But, look, at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. It was a long time coming. And I think, even just like the subtle kind of fist pump when Ian Happ caught that ball, very fitting that he caught that ball, by the way. I think it said a lot. It was a lot of relief. It was a lot of just like, okay, we checked one of the boxes. We are not going to win 83 games and miss the playoffs this time. We're going to hit probably over 90, and we're going to play as one of, the small number of teams in this league that is making the playoffs. So we'll continue to talk about that. But I think probably when we get back, it's about time to look ahead to October and setting things up to see if the Cubs can make a run here. We will do that after we come back from our first ad break.
Okay, with Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes up by 17 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up and place a $10 bet on the first touchdown score for NFL games and get a split of $365,000 in bonus bets if you win. Download the app and use code, again, CHGO365 when you sign up. And breaking news from the Bet365 playoff season is here, and new customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code CHGO365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bets can be used on the spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. All right, if you're looking for the spot to catch your favorite games this season, well, we've got a place that checks all the boxes. It's chef-driven with elevated bar food that's locally inspired. They've got the best smash burger, and the tavern-style pizza is amazing. It's not just about food, though. They also offer tons of games, pool, darts, big buck hunter, shuffleboard. They also have wall-to-wall TVs. It's perfect for watching literally any sports. And the owners, CHGO die-hard members and massive Bears fans. So yes, the Bears are repped hard there. They've even got a covered beer garden with TV. So you're not just missing a thing, rain or shine. It's just a block north of Wrigley Field. So it's the ideal pregame, during game, and post-game Cub spot. Daily specials and happy hour, that's actually worth your time. So go check out Almost Home Tavern.
Love Almost Home. Used to live over there. Some of you guys know this when I was doxxed by a good friend on these podcasts. I don't anymore. But I did frequent Almost Home. It's a great bar, a little bit off the strip. I got to tell you, man, if you're listening on the podcast feed, you guys are missing it. But YouTube chat, some of you are utterly miserable, and that's your prerogative. But Godspeed.
I can sing "Go Cubs Go." You know,
I mean,
I can't sing
miserable,
it as well as Shota Imanaga, but I can sing it.
All right, Brennan, I do want to look ahead to October. I think especially, so we've got 3 more with the Reds here, Friday through Sunday, a day off on Monday, the 22nd, 3 at home with the Mets, and then 3 at home with the Cardinals to finish the season on the 28th. So that's not a lot of time. And the Kyle Tucker situation, like they're being this time seemingly pretty candid about, like it didn't get better. He's going to seek something different. But even Craig Counsell the other day, like did note, like there's not a lot of time left. Like you'd really like him to be in some games next week. We'll see. Now, as a fan base that watched Kyle Schwarber with a, destroyed leg show up in October and almost win World Series MVP, part of me is like, listen, DH him, wheel him out to the plate, let him stand up. And I'm guessing Kyle Tucker can hit better than some of their other options, but we'll see. It is something to monitor. I'm hoping that he will be able to go, even if that is in a capacity where he can't field. Maybe even his running is limited. But we'll see. on that. Obviously, that is up in the air and a big thing to keep an eye on. I think the other thing, Brendan, two things. The lineup, we've been seeing a slightly different one, and I see it in our chat a lot, the calls for how will they handle someone like Moises Ballesteros in the playoffs. Will they let him have playing time? He's obviously looked good here, provided a bit of a spark. And then we've been seeing Nico Hoerner up at the top of the lineup. Nico Hoerner, the potential threat to win the batting title. Nico Hoerner, which I know you're keeping an eye on. So I think let's start on the offense. We'll get to the pitching. And I think you and I went through how we would line up the rotation. I'm curious, watching Boyd, not quite look as fine. Are you thinking on that? What are we thinking there? But let's start with the offense. What's your concern level on the situation with Tucker? Our confidence that he can come back? And then just how they've been structuring the lineup. Obviously, Michael Busch has gotten hot again, so everyone's feeling comfortable with him in the leadoff spot, et cetera, et cetera. Just how are you feeling about the lineup in these last few weeks and where you'd like them to be come the end of September, beginning of October?
Well, I mean, in my view, the season's more or less done. We know about max capacity. We know about what they look like at their best. With Tucker, it's disappointing. I mean, we first knew it was tightness, then it turned to pain, then it turned to him not being able to come off the IL at the day he's due to come off of. And now he's seeing his own medical professionals outside the Cubs organization. How can you not be concerned about Kyle Tucker? At the same time, I hope it works out. We still have to talk about the current guys on the team right now and the slumps that some of these guys continue to be in. The question we always get asked, and I ask as well, is how important is it for them to be quote unquote hot going into the postseason? In 2016, the MVP of the league that year, Chris Bryant, his September was the worst month of his season that year. He batted .220, had a WRC plus of 79, a weighted on base average of 279, and he only had 3 home runs going into the postseason within the last 6 weeks. Chris Bryant. I'll pose a question to you. How much information, how much did that affect the projection, and what did they do that year? Was it that big of a deal?
Well, okay, I do have a slight pushback on that, though. They did win the World Series, and Chris Bryant was a key figure in that. So to answer your question, Chris Bryant was Chris Bryant at the time. Is that necessarily fair to apply to some other guys? Chris Bryant was at the top of the league at the time. So looking at his prior couple weeks ahead of the playoffs, isn't it more realistic that he would turn it around because he was playing at an MVP level pace, say as some of the guys in this lineup where they've ebbed and flowed so much, they really don't have a sure thing on their career? Are you not more inclined to want to see them playing a little better, looking better at the plate heading into the playoffs? Though I do take your point. Obviously.
Of course, you want everyone to look good, right? You'd rather take someone looking good than bad. But when you enter a playoff series, it's about the highest of stress environments. So no matter if you're playing bad recently or not, it's about how you play in that environment. The question is, what is the highest outcome scenario for this team? They have 6 guys by the end of the year who may have over 25 home runs in this lineup. You talk about career rates. Ian Happ's career WRC plus is nearly 120. Michael Busch, you talk about career norms in his 2 years. Well, his WRC plus is around the same as Happ's. Dansby Swanson's career rate is well within what we've seen recently. Nico Hoerner's turned into an above average guy. Those are 4 guys right in there. I did not even list Seiya Suzuki. I did not list PCA. I didn't list Carson Kelly. And I did not list Kyle Tucker coming back from injury. That's 8 guys right there. You start playing a volume game. And this is not being, just to be extra crystal clear here, this is not painting a rosy, optimistic picture. You want to be doom and gloom. The reality is, yeah, they're going to lose in the playoffs like every other team. But we've been through this now for 20 years with playoff contenders. We've seen teams win the World Series, win 83 games. We've seen teams go to the World Series winning 84 games with the Diamondbacks a couple years ago. We've seen the Washington Nationals use a starter once every 3 games. We've seen the Los Angeles Dodgers nearly get bounced in a bullpen game against the Padres last year. We've seen the Cubs at their best in 2008 get swept by the Dodgers the year before against Diamondbacks. They got swept as well. Crazy stuff happens. So all it takes is 1 or 2, ideally 3 of your A guys to show at any point in the year in April, May, June, July that for 2 games in a wild card series, they can hit a couple home runs. So what's the likelihood that of those A guys, you have a couple guys hit a few home runs? I would say there's a realistic chance, right? Now, people are going to gloss over that, oh, it's not a World Series team. The definition of a World Series team is having a 15% chance at winning the World Series. That's awful odds. So miss me with that.
I hear you. Yeah, I think that's fair. I get it though, right? Like the urge to, some of the guys are certainly not at their best place that they've been in the season, but I think we talked about this last week. Like, I think the key when you're going into this is have you seen it, right?
Yeah.
And you said max capacity. Like, we've seen it. It's been a minute since it felt like that, right? But like, we know that this offense has the potential to pace this team and to give their pitching staff room to win games. Again, it's been very inconsistent for the last few months. There's no denying that, right? But it's in there. And you're seeing Michael Busch playing more like he did at the beginning of the year. PCA's been slugging a little bit in that Pittsburgh series. Hopefully he can continue with that. Nico looks at his best right now. Hap looks at his best right now. So some of that is coming along. Obviously, you'd like to see Seiya back in slugging. He breaks up the no-hitter against Hunter Green tonight with a double. Good to see. But yeah, it would be very nice if the top of the order, especially Kyle Tucker's not even playing, were thumping the way that we had seen at the beginning of the year. But to your point, that wouldn't be any guarantee that they wouldn't all go 0 for 12 in, the first game or whatever to start that wild card series. So yeah, point taken. I think our guy Niren in the chat, says it right. Like, October is a bit of a reset. Looking back in like 2016, either it was 2015 or 2016. Like, I don't know that the Giants were necessarily counting on Connor Gillespie to have like a generational, playoff run in some of those key moments. Travis Ishikawa sent them to the pennant one year. Like, weird stuff happens. It's not always the main guy, right? That is taking care and doing all of this stuff. So sometimes there's unheralded players, and it is going to be interesting, like getting to the point, about someone like Ballesteros, right? It's going to be interesting to see how Craig decides to play that. I think for a lot of these guys, I don't expect the stage to get the best of them. I think, they've hit their whole career. They've hit at different levels. They've all faced a variety of different challenges. I wouldn't expect the bright lights to get to them. But it is going to be interesting. And we talked about that kind of last week in reference to guys like Willie Castro or Justin Turner. Like, do you defer to the longer track record, even if it has not necessarily been showing up that way throughout the season? Or do you ride some of the hot hands and say, hey, this guy's been seeing the ball well, like, we're going to give it a shot? Ballesteros having success in the postseason certainly wouldn't be the first young Cub we've seen have success in a postseason. They won a championship on the back of some of those guys doing that. So it's certainly possible. I don't have the answer for how they're going to approach it, but certainly as we go on the weeks here where Tucker's not playing and Ballesteros is getting a lot of that playing time and really getting some hacks in, he certainly may be, setting himself up for an opportunity to at least get some looks in those games.
I'll take the ad break here. One last note: Javi Baez, the month of September in 2016, WRC plus of 86, Corey, so significantly below average. His career rate that year was 95. You talk about having guys with established career track records. He was anything but that at the time. And he and your boy John Lester co-NLCS MVPs, right? But what we knew about Javi Baez was, well, he has the high power output and he has potential there. What did we see that playoffs? Home run, home
Yeah.
run, home run. I'll take
Well,
the
and
ad break. Yeah.
one more thing before the ad break too. Like that's the other thing with PCA. I know everybody has been, concerned, whatever word you want to use, as the season has gone on, that he hasn't kept up that pace, or he's obviously struggled in a lot of these stretches, and the offensive numbers haven't looked as good. But the playoffs is where, obviously you hope that April PCA shows up and he's popping homers and, the star of the show, right? But that's also where you do sort of revert back to somewhat of the initial thinking on him before he was putting up, 900 OPS for the first couple months or whatever it was. His whole vibe was like, he's going to play elite defense, he's going to run these bases, and he's going to cause some chaos, right? And you think about like Javi in those playoffs as well. Like, even if Pete is not at his best offensively, which we'll see once we actually get to October, he's the type of player that provides those potential moments. You think about Javi dropping the ball and turning that double play against the Dodgers, or making some of those great catches or tags in the Giants series, things like that. Even like going to Game 7 of the World Series, like Almora stealing that base on the Chris Bryant fly ball, the famous tag up, right? Those are those little things. They matter immensely in the playoffs, let alone a 3-game wild card series. Every single little thing you can do makes a huge difference. If all PCA was doing in some of those games was taking away a double from the gap on a diving catch and stealing a base, or turning a soft grounder into a single or an error, those can potentially be massive, massive plays in the playoffs, even if he's not at his best or not contributing in that same way. So just to your sort of point about where guys are at and what they end up doing in the playoffs, the script does kind of flip.
It does. Let's take our ad break here. A lot to talk about. Okay. Toyota at Toyota's national sales event. We've got a long lineup of vehicles for summer fun. Toyota has 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel. The RAV4 also has the legendary versatility. The Grand Highlander's adult size third row is for real, and the Tacoma's wild side comes standard. From job size to camp size and game nights, there's also an all-wheeler drive or four-wheel drive. Toyota can get you there in style. Find yours at toyota.com or visit your Chicagoland Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places and become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. You can get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge, where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest info on how you can join thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level. Okay, you know that feeling when your finances finally make sense? That's Monarch Money. It's the all-in-one tool that helps you feel organized, in control, and confident about your money. Right now, Monarch is giving our listeners 50% off their first year. I've been using Monarch to keep my investments on track, grow my savings faster, and review everything with my partner without the usual spreadsheets and headaches. It gives me a crystal clear picture of where my money's going week to week and long term. Monarch is built for busy people. You can link every account in minutes, see smart spending breakdowns, and spot ways to save or invest better. If you've ever been putting off organizing your finances, this is the easiest way to get back in control and stay there. Use code CHGO at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code CHGO.
All right, Brendan, back with you here. And I want to jump into our Taking the Temp segment. And I want to take the temp on one Matthew Boyd as we head into the final few weeks of the season and into the playoffs. Taking the Temp is brought to you by your trusted local experts at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That is fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Let's take the temp on Matthew Boyd, Brendan. This was a guy who, coming into the year, obviously coming off injury, not a full season of starts, but the ones that he made were excellent. And coming over, He started the year for the Cubs realistically in Cy Young contention for a good chunk of this season. But they were always, careful with those innings. They were always kind of trying to keep him fresh, etc. And as we wind down here, his last 15 starts, 88 and 2/3 innings, a 3.55 ERA, 72 strikeouts to 20 walks, a whip just north of 1. Last 7 starts, Brendan, is why we are indeed taking the temp. 38 and 2/3 innings, a 5.8 ERA, 30 strikeouts to 12 walks, and a whip over 1.3. So I think the question is, does that concern you? Those numbers kind of ballooning up at the end of the year. And I think just like overall, as we've watched him, just not as sharp in these starts, even taking the numbers out of it. There was points earlier in the year where he was carving up opposing offenses. It looked easy for him. It looked like at times the ball was on a string. He was placing it in the strike zone. He had hitters thinking exactly what he wanted. Doesn't feel that same way exactly now. So independent of the numbers. But when we talk about how you would structure this wild card series, who you're giving the ball to in game 1, who you're giving it to in game 3, who you're sending out in game 3 with it all on the line, do these last few starts change any opinion on how you would go about that? And is there anything that you're seeing with Matthew Boyd recently that points to this change in success, or can it potentially just be fatigue that was kind of something that even as we started in the season and the offseason, we were all kind of wondering, would that happen, right, if he reached a certain threshold?
It's a conversation that Boyd, Hottovy, Counsell, the staff can have. If there's points of his mechanics not being sharp, of course, we're not seeing the numbers, what they were for the first 3.5 months, then they can talk honestly about maybe having him pitch game 3 and having Cade Horton go game 2 or game 1 and Shota vice versa, game 1 or game 2. That's a conversation for them to have. At the same time, if Boyd is saying, you know what, I feel pretty good. My velocity, as you can see, has remained stable. His velo has not dropped over time. And what really is going on is a slight mechanical tweak. Then I can see them having him pitch game 2 and just be ready just in case you need a quick hook. If they want to play, to your point earlier, that track record. If you like track records, well, he pitched with Cleveland last year in the playoffs. So he kind of has that experience. The only guy in the top 3 of this rotation having that playoff experience. It's a conversation they should have, and they probably will have. Am I concerned? I don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing the fastball location progressively lower over the past 6 weeks. That's a question of why is that happening? If there's an optimistic view, it's that when you look at the stuff and you just ask the question, is the stuff looking different? The fastball looks the same and the changeup looks the same from just a stuff, StatCast perspective. The two changes that are happening are to his breaking pitches. So his slider and his curveball. The slider was slightly tweaked this year. It wasn't really the same pitch he used in the previous few years. That's been a little bit different as times progressed. The curveball, like the slider, has been a little bit different as time progressed. But Boyd has made his career, especially his success, dependent on a four-seam fastball and a changeup. If those two pitches are consistent and he's confident in them, then he can still work out and be successful. He just pitched 7 innings less than 10 days ago with 2 runs. That's a conversation they will have. My concern level is elevated, but I'm not freaking out. I will default to what they think is best.
So we did this exercise last week. If you were drawing up the rotation now, you're doing what? In, let's say it's 3 games. How are you laying it out?
I probably would still go with Boyd game 2.
So you would run the risk of Cade Horton not going out there?
No.
Yes.
No. You see how the games progress. Game 1 is going to have a downstream effect. If Shota can go 7 innings, then you can start letting go of the reserves and Cade Horton can piggyback. Now the pushback is, well, he's never done that. You're going to let Cade Horton come in for the first time out of the bullpen. That's a fair point as well. I understand that. But we're having conversations about track records and stuff. And with Cade Horton, remember too, he's been pitching on 70 to 80 pitch limits. I love Cade. Don't get me wrong. I really love what he can do. But at the same time, I will default to what they think is best. And the way I interpret what they're going to think is you have a guy who's approaching 185 innings, who's not pitch restricted, who stuff looks decent, the velocity hasn't dipped, and he kind of has that veteran presence. Let's go with that because you have more information. But if they decide to go Cade in the first 2 games, of course I'm going to get behind it, right? My whole point is you default to the coaching staff and having those honest conversations.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know if I'm with you though. I hear where you're coming from. It is a really interesting conversation.
I mean, I'm not convicted about it.
No,
right?
I know. Yeah. I think, you're going to get a lot of people that are very convicted. Cade should get the ball game 1, right?
Listen, I'm fine with Cade getting
the ball
have a
problem
game 1
with
too.
It. Yeah, I think it all does become interesting because there is an element of reacting somewhat to game 1. You have to have a plan, but there's a big difference, as you said, if you do give Shota the ball in game 1, which I would. That's the direction I would go. I don't know what I think they're going to do at this point. If he goes 7 innings, 8 innings, right, and you save your bullpen, you win game 1, you can do whatever you want in game 2. Like, throw Colin Ray out there if you feel like. I'm joking. But, like, if Shota gets blown up in game 1 and you have to empty the bullpen and it's a close game and you still need to use Brad Keller or some of those leverage guys, it does really change how you approach the rest of the series. Because as we talked about, I think a little last week, of course, this is the case in any playoff series, but this isn't a long one, folks. You can't, in the World Series, the Cubs dropped game 1. Of course, this was not my attitude privately, but like normally I would say it's a 7-game series. Like somebody's got to win 4 games. Like you have to calm down, like chill out a little bit. It's a long series. You can't approach every minute like it is a fire drill because it can't be. In the wild card series, it is. Like every minute of those games is empty the tank. You have got to win that game and avoid playing in game 3 or obviously losing in that series. So you do have to approach that a little differently. It is basically an all hands on deck situation because there isn't a tomorrow. And dropping 1 game, like now you're on the brink of elimination right away.
Well, I mean, here's a question for you. Do you think they
Sure.
announced the 3-game set before the series? Or do you think they
you think Counsell plays a little ball? Yeah, probably.
Bit, right?
Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Why
can
not,
see that.
right?
I mean, him and Mike Schilt have dealt with each other a good bit. So I can see some gamesmanship there. Yeah, it is interesting because like there was a certain point in May, June, where like if we were sitting here saying Boyd wasn't pitching game 1, you would have been like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, of course he's pitching game 1. And I think that's good that they have options in a season where they lost Justin Steele, Jamison Tyone, who's looked fantastic recently, but missed a lot of time with injury. Shota missed time with injury. To even be having a discussion of who we'd like to pitch in those games does feel like a bit of a luxury. I think when Steele was out and Shota was out, if you and I had said we were going to be coming, not only talking about the playoffs, but debating like the merit of giving 3 different guys the ball in a wild card series, I would have been like, that's a pretty positive outcome, given that Justin Steele is not here and half the staff has been injured this season.
I mean, we're approaching this from a lot of unknowns, right?
Sure.
Like, of course, you can look at the surface. You see Cade Horton's putting up Jake Arrieta ERA numbers in the second half. I'm not, I see that too. Like Cade Horton is embracing that persona that made me love Jake Arrieta. Like I love watching Cade pitch, but the degree of unknown is so large with Boyd just because the velocity is the same. So if that's the case, wouldn't you rule out some fatigue, right? And then you start looking at the pitch shapes. Well, the fastball looks the same, and so does the changeup. So you're ruling out his two dominant pitch types and their shape being different. But then you have the breaking pitches look different. So the conversation, the unknown is, well, what do the coaches think? How much of a problem is that? I don't know the answer to it. But if they're thinking it's not a problem, then I totally understand them allowing Boyd to pitch in the first two games and waiting for Cade, who's been on a pitch limit, just wait it out a little bit more. I can totally see them doing that.
I think, yeah. And again, you see how these are playing out. I think the concern would be, and I guess this goes for any of the three of them, I just wouldn't want to run the risk of Cade
and
not pitching.
That's the conversation.
He's so hot and running so good that the idea of him not getting the ball, again, if they want to do game 1, game 2, I don't necessarily care, but like ASAP does feel a little strange. The counter to that, and you have to just monitor this, right, is even when you look back at 2015 Jake Arrieta, like by the time they got to the Mets, his velocity
dipped 2 miles per hour.
So now I'm not suggesting that that'll happen with Cade, but I'm just, and this goes for any pitcher, right? Like when you get to this point, like fatigue and just sort of running out of gas or just not having your best stuff is a real thing you have to be paying attention to. So as we finish these last couple weeks, these last few series and going into this, it is important to pay attention. Like, where are these guys at? And as you're saying, like Boyd's looking good. Cade obviously is looking great, but making sure that they don't reach that point, because it is always possible. And with all three of these guys, right? Two of them, you're dealing with guys that came into the year, not necessarily on strict limits, but, like not doing full seasons the year before or coming back from injuries, things that you really needed to monitor. And Shota missed a good chunk of time in this season. So all of them being at their peak and healthy and everything looking good, velo, mechanics, and otherwise, it is a legitimate question. Like, there is enough that has gone on that it is not just plug and play. Like, yeah, this guy's been here, he's making his starts, of course he's fine. Like, that's the sort of key difference when you think about someone like John Lester, right? He was so consistent and did it so frequently that it was like, well, yeah, we know he can go deep into October. He's done it a dozen times before. Yeah. Again, not to say that I lack the confidence in these guys, but it is something that the coaching staff and the front office, they're going to be monitoring. Like, where are these guys at to each fine point? We have to hit our ad break here.
I'll hit it when we come back out. I still want to continue the pitching conversation, so just pick it back up when I finish this, okay? There is nothing like being at the ballpark, hearing the crack of the bat, the crowd roaring, just being in the moment. But getting tickets, that can be a total headache. The queues, the login screens, prices jumping right at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time. It's the hack that gives fans the advantage. With just a couple of taps, you unlock amazing tickets and experiences fast. Plus, the Game Time guarantee means your tickets are 100% authentic, on time, and always at the best price. My favorite part, fees are included up front. So what you see is what you pay. No surprises. I also love the zone deals feature. You pick this section, Game Time picks the exact seats, and you save even more. Plus, you can see a panoramic view from your seat before you buy, which takes all the guesswork out. Take the stress out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO, that's CHGO, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Tap, ticket, go, get Game Time today. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake is slashing prices on new cars and giving you big savings all month long. Come in today to shop the model year sales event and drive home with employee pricing on every new Chevrolet model. You can get $3,000 to $11,000 off MSRP, or check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you'll get a great deal. Plus, Ray's price promise lets you shop confidently because the price you see is the price you pay. And do not miss out on their model year end sales event going on all month long for employee pricing in every new Chevrolet model. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
All right, Brendan, back with you. And I do want to read a question from our guy, Edward. Apologies to Edward. He's a big fan of Brendan's graphs. And if you're listening on our podcast feed tonight, we didn't have any. So Brendan also hungover, champagne. You can't make graphs. Very hard to hit a 100 green fastball when you're hungover. Very difficult to have the refined technique to make those graphs when you're hungover on champagne.
I almost got noted tonight too.
Yeah. But Edward says, so does the pitch count go out the window in the playoffs? And my initial reaction to that, Brendan, is that it's basically the opposite. I would expect short starts, and I would expect Craig Counsell attacking the matchups and avoiding hitting that lineup the third time. Obviously, dependent on how a guy looks. If he's mowing guys down, sure. But especially when you think of if it is the San Diego Padres, which it looks rather likely that it'll be, when you think about having to face guys like Manny Machado, third time through the order, he's going to be very careful about how he manages that. And you're going to get, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these guys that have been using high leverage early in the game. If there is a spot where Machado or one of those heavy hitters comes up in a key spot, runners on, feels like a Pat Hughes turning point moment, I would expect Craig to attack that very, very aggressively, especially to the earlier point in a wild card series. Maybe in a deeper series, a 7-game series, you let the starters breathe a little bit. You don't necessarily attack the games as aggressively. In the wild card game, I would say I would be surprised, unless there's really high stress early innings. I would be surprised if most of those guys are getting to a pitch count where that's even part of the discussion. I would almost just expect them to be out before that becomes an issue.
Yeah, I mean, 3-game set. The Cubs, unlike previous playoff teams they've had, they have the volume of pitchers. So Brad Keller, Caleb Thielbar, Andrew Kittredge, you'll have Jameson Taillon probably in potentially an emergency situation. Javi Assad, we'll see what Porter Hodge looks like in the next 11 days here. You also have Taylor Rogers. You have Michael Soroka getting opportunities. Those are, I think, I just listed 7 or 8 guys right there. So to your point, if Shota gets blown up, it may not even get to that point. Like, he may just be in damage potential and Craig pulls the early hook. And that could be the exact same thing for Matthew Boyd, right? And so with Cade Horton, maybe he does pitch game 2 because you do have that philosophy. So I could see Craig being, Boyd, you're the veteran, right? Padres, you have a heavy right-handed power slugging lineup. Let's throw the righty. But Boyd, by the way, if we're going to go down and lose the series, you kind of have to be ready to piggyback off of Horton. You can easily see that as well because you're facing elimination. Like, in a way, the more I think about this, Corey, maybe a wild card series, who starts the game doesn't really matter, like in that order, right? Like, maybe they do go with Shota game 1, or maybe they even go with Cade game 1 as well. But I think really it's how fast Craig pulls the hook on every one of these guys.
It's 100% fair. And I know that it makes the, sort of prediction and analysis on our part sort of a little, it feels like punting, but it really, because it's such a short series, it really does depend on how these games play out. Like, if Shota gets blown up in game 1 and you're down by 8 runs, like, you're not going to sell the game, but you're also not going to sell out to come back in it. You have to then win tomorrow. If Shota comes out and deals and your offense chases, whoever it is that they start in the first game, Pavetta, whoever it may be, right? And you put up a 7 spot, the same in reverse. You don't take the foot off the gas, but you also don't have, you maybe on that day you plan like, hey, if we can avoid getting Brad Keller in here, like, great, let's save our big arms and like, let's see. But you at the same time, if he attacked it aggressively and was like, we have to win this game, I wouldn't be surprised at that too. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, but this is also one of those areas, for as much as people like to complain about it and overreact to every lineup and every decision and whatever. This is what you're paying Craig Counsell for, right? The biggest disappointment perhaps of all of this at the end of this season would be if you and I sat here and we felt like Craig got outmanaged by Mike Schill, right? They are paying Craig Counsell for these moments to handle these types of decisions. Do I start the potential rookie of the year, the hot rookie? Do I defer to the top hand? Do I sell out to win game one? Do I save things for game two? That is why you're paying him the big bucks. And everything I've seen of Craig, I have the utmost confidence in him to make these decisions and put the Cubs in the best position possible.
Yeah. I mean, as we're talking about this, quite frankly, like there's a degree of discomfort I have with putting Cade Horton as the number 3 starter and how that sounds.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll be upfront with you. Like the way I know how it sounds, everyone. I get it. And if it were up to me without these conversations about Boyd's stuff and that knowledge, right, I'm defaulting to that. But if there is some like, hey, what's going on there? I probably would put Cade number 2. But I'm just operating as if nothing's out of the norm for Boyd. But the more we talk about this, the more I'm starting to realize, like, these are 3-inning bursts. Like, that's how this wild card series is going to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, if you're going to make the argument, who's more likely to get out in burst scenarios, 3, 4, 5-inning burst scenarios, I can't really argue against Cade in a 3 to 4 inning burst. Right?
Now, and I know you're thinking about this. You're potentially regretting your initial decision. Have you pictured it though? And I love Matthew Boyd. It's no disrespect to him, but have you pictured a playoff atmosphere at Wrigley Field and Cade Horton taking the mound and how that specifically would make you feel?
I made a mistake. What can I say?
I don't think you have. Yeah. I don't think you did.
A mistake. Can I change my mind?
Sure.
Is this allowed?
Yeah. You missed that part of the podcast. So anybody that heard that has now decided that they hate you and are never listening to you.
That's probably what happened. But I mean, like, yeah, this is uncharted territory in a 3-game set. Like I've talking out loud and thinking about this, right? Just listing the number of pitches. By the way, I didn't even mention Daniel Palencia, right? So the way that we're talking about Craig Counsell's bullpen management, what we don't know is how much do you completely empty the entire staff to win the series? It's not just the starters, right? Let's say we're in the 3rd inning and Shota's giving up 1 run, but he just doesn't look good. A few deep fly balls. Do you pull Shota after 1 run in the 3rd inning? If you see it not looking good, if you see a few deep fly balls, if you see some damage, right? Because you can kind of see it coming. Do you really want to leave, Caleb Theobar and Brad Keller and all those guys just left hanging when in front of you, it's not classical quintessential Shota, right? Sure. I think that is maybe one way Craig kind of manages this series. I'm not sure. I'm fascinated to find out though.
All right. Wrapping up here, to our good friend Edward's question, yes, once we have a matchup locked in, I would expect that next Thursday's episode with Brendan and I will be breaking that down. Keep an eye on the CHGO Cubs socials. This group has not had to plan for playoff shows before, so that's a fun new thing that we get to do. But Brendan and I will for sure be back with you next Thursday, and then we'll figure it out from there as we get the playoff schedule, when they're playing, who they're playing, etc. 9 games left, Brendan, and that's it for the 2025 Chicago Cubs until we hit the playoffs. Apparently divisive in our YouTube chat, but
they all
enjoyed
left
this week.
Did you notice that?
Huh?
They all left.
That's
typically what happens. That's the folks
There will be a time to relitigate the whole season, the off season, the trades, the performances, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, in this offseason, Jed Hoyer pulled a big swing. He brought over Kyle Tucker, and one of the goals to doing that was getting this team back in the playoffs, getting them over 83 wins and getting back in the playoffs. I wish they won the division. I wish they were the top seed. I wish they had a bye. But you know what? One of the boxes to check coming into every year is making the playoffs. There are plenty of teams that will not check that box and a lot of teams that are not even close. It's been a while, and I am very, very happy to have gotten to watch the Cubs pop champagne and head back to the playoffs. Now, I will take these 9 games to try to relax and hope everybody gets healthy. Kyle Tucker, we're looking at you. And then I have to remember what it's like to watch the Cubs play playoff baseball, which means I don't sleep, I don't eat, and I'm just a constant nightmare of stress. But Brendan, it's been a long time coming. We've done a lot of seasons talking about bad teams, rebuilds, non-rebuilds, whatever you want to call them. I'm happy the Cubs are back, and I am looking forward to the Chicago Cubs playing playoff baseball in October. Brendan and I will talk to you again next Thursday, where we will break down their round 1 opponent. We will look ahead to the playoffs, and then it's on, folks. The Cubs try to win a championship. We appreciate you joining us all season. We will have you covered through October, hopefully a late run, maybe a little bit in early November, if you guys like that vibe. Otherwise, we'll catch you again next Thursday. We appreciate the support, and as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.